RCR has shaken up with major news today. Andy Petree is out. Keith Rodden is now in as a competition director. What does that mean for Austin Dillon and, of course, more importantly, Kyle Busch moving forward? Let's talk about it here on Stuck in the Catchfence. Welcome in. Hopefully you're having a wonderful Tuesday evening. Obviously there was bigger news, but news that we already knew about earlier today, as Chase Briscoe will be moving on to the 19 car for JGR starting next year. But I'm here to talk to you about what is hopefully a shakeup and possibly the beginning of major movement inside of the RCR camp. It was announced later today that out of nowhere, but not overly surprising, that Richard Childress has decided to make some moves after what was a disastrous New Hampshire. New Hampshire for RCR, outside of last year with a top 10 for Austin Dillon, has been really, really bad. Kyle Busch, probably one of the worst races of his entire career. Some people questioning if he even attempted to finish that race. I guess we'll never, ever really know. But RCR has decided, Richard Childress has decided to move on from longtime crew chief, 7-time champion crew chief for the number 3, and Andy Petree, and now put in Keith Rodden. And I say move on from because you don't retire in the middle of the year. Let me just get that straight. You do not retire at literally the halfway point of a season. I believe that Richard Childress said, look, you're the person leading the competition, and right now, competitively, we are terrible. Kyle Busch is in the bottom teens when it comes to rankings on the outside of the playoffs looking in. Austin Dillon has been a disaster. He is running in the 30s and does not look like he's gaining any speed anytime soon. So, moving on, Andy Petree, the glorious way of saying I wasn't fired, I retired, which is the gentleman's way of leading out. And I have no hard feelings for Andy Petree. I feel like this has just been something that's happened for a long time. And now, ultimately, he is the guy that falls on the sword. If I was to have hard feelings for Andy Petree, and this is kind of where my RCR standing started to sour, is the way that he pushed Sheldon Creed out at RCR when it was clear that they didn't get along with Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed, even though there may have been a rift there, still drove his ass off for RCR, had a chance to make the Final Four, and they simply gave him both middle fingers on the way out. The way that they have talked about Tyler Reddick when he signed his deal a year and a half in advance, it just seems like things are not run like a top-notch organization, and Andy Petree has clearly been a part of that. So I do not like the way that they've been doing business on that standpoint, and maybe this is Richard Childress trying to turn over a new leaf. Now, is Keith Rodden the answer? Probably not. That's unfortunate because the guy that has been mainly serving as a car chief, well, the cars aren't that good. So I don't know if that's going to change anything. Maybe it will take a new Chevy Camaro to change things, because really the Chevys outside of Kyle Larson, consistency from Chase Elliott, have not been very good here lately. Unfortunately for RCR fans, they have just been one level above a pile of dog crap. So, what does this mean from a holistic standpoint? Does this mean that Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon will be competitive immediately? No, it does not mean that at all. To me, what it means is that Richard Childress is not going to be apathetic. He's not going to just atrophy the rest of the way in, let everything go to waste. He is being proactive in making moves. And that I can appreciate. As much as I've sat here and slandered and been disappointed with what I've seen with Kyle Busch moving to RCR, my feelings towards RCR before Kyle Busch got there, I will at least appreciate that he is not going to sit on his laurels and say, you know what, it is what it is, we'll look at the end of the season. I think the frustration in the garage from all standpoints, the 3 car, the 8 car, I mean, the 21 car and Xfinity has been just kind of a pain in the butt this year too, with Austin Hill, running his mouth, and then as soon as somebody does anything to him, he cries victim. There's just not a good aura around the entire facility. So what do? You let everybody be on guard. No, if I'm willing to let go of Andy Petree, who's been here since day one, it feels like he's been there for 35 years, I believe is what the press release said, then I'm willing to let anyone go. So let's go ahead and look at the press release. This will pop up on your guys' screen. Longtime Richard Childress Racing competition executive Andy Petree has announced his retirement. From the 55-year-old race team, Keith Rodden has been appointed interim competition director at RCR. I'm grateful for RC for the impact he's had on my career, as well as wonderful memories, on-track success we've enjoyed together. I wish nothing but the best for the rest of the season. 35-year veteran of the motorsports, Petree first joined RCR in 1993 as a crew chief for the famous number 3, drove by Dale Earnhardt. With Petree's help, Earnhardt earned his 6 and 7 championships. They won 15 times together, 7 poles, 56 top 5s, 47 top 10s, so on and so forth. So, and also, he says that Andy Petree has been a tremendous supporter of RCR for a long time. Keith Rodden has big shoes to fill as interim competition director, but I know his passion in motorsports and dedication will help RCR forward during key time for the organization. So, again, I compared RC, Richard Childress, to the Bengals at times because too often, being a Cincinnati Bengals fan, it wasn't the fact that they were losing, it's just the fact that we never felt like we were doing anything different to try to go in a different direction. It was Mike Brown saying, this is my team, or even a Jerry Jones, I'm sure somewhat to Cowboys fans. This is my team. I do things my way. I'm not going to do it like the rest of the league. And if you want to be a fan of it, tough crap. Us Reds fans even had the same thing. When Phil Castellini said, where are you going to go, after we were being upset with the direction. This, to me, at least gives me a glimmer of hope that Richard Childress is going to move on to try to find somebody better, or Keith Rodden will fill in and do better, which I think that's a lower percentage chance. But more importantly, is not going to sit here and say, this is what we are happy with. This isn't colleague racing and saying it is what it is. We want to win, and we're going to make moves to win. Even if it is a cosmetic move at right now, it at least shows that Richard Childress cares and that he is not content to where his team is right now. So, let's hope moving forward that RCR, from Kyle Busch fans, for you Austin Dillon fans, can show some sort of charge here in the second half of the season. As much as I've been upset with the way Kyle Busch has been running, it's still Kyle Busch. He can still find his way to victory lane. As much as I don't think that Austin Dillon is the greatest talent in the sport, he still has 5 playoff appearances in the last 8 years. There is talent on that team, especially behind the steering wheel, but it has been just a cataclysmic failure. But again, Richard Childress has shown he's not happy. He's moved on from Austin Dillon's crew chief. He's now moving on from Andy Petree. These are things that at least superficially go, okay, let's see what direction this is going to go, because beating our head on the wall and doing the same thing week after week after week over and over and over again is not the right direction. Do I think it helps immediately? No, but it could be a shot in the arm, and hopefully Keith Rodden maybe can implement some things that Andy Petree wasn't. We shall see. So we'll have I believe Joe's actually going to stream some iRacing tonight. We'll have our show for the rest of the week as well. We'll get to a couple shorts. Hopefully you guys enjoy those. Always try to make those fun and creative as well. And if any other major news drops, we'll talk about Chase Briscoe. We'll talk about the tracks changing on the weekly show coming out of the playoffs. One big major departure from the playoffs, so we'll get to all of that and any other news that pops up. My name is Ryan Peters. If you ever want to join, just click on the subscribe button, comment, let me know what your thoughts overall are on RCR making a move or anything else going on in the wide world of motorsports, NASCAR particularly. We are on Twitch, Kick, We are on TikTok. You can find us. All of these are at Stuck in the Catchfence Facebook. We also have a Patreon page if you ever decide that you would like to financially try to help us out. That would be greatly appreciated, but again, never warranted. So thank you again. My name is Ryan Peters for Stuck in the Catchfence. We'll see you next time. Stay safe and God bless.